We are towards the bottom of the page, actually 8 lines from the bottom. The line begins with word dover. So we have now come, so to speak, in contact with a statement, an expression that gives us a clear understanding of what it means that it comes, that what is creation, what it means that it comes from Elokus into world. World represents a Metzias Dover. A Metzias Dover means something definitive that speaks about itself, and it exists on the basis of the fact that it exists. Metzias. Not by function, not by purpose. Like we say, when does a car become a car? When you have expressed it in steel and objects that are just a presence in the world. Then, if you can imbue these objects, this material, with functionality, you have a car. Even though the real impetus for the whole thing is the functionality. And more than the functionality, the purpose, the spirit behind it. That's the real thing, the real creator. Yet, in order to be in the world, it has to be contained and represented in something which is a Metzias Dover. This is what we're saying, that it comes into Chokhmah, and Chokhmah is already a ha'ora. A ha'ora means it is not a fundamental reality. It's not an etzem. Therefore, it is it will only be tending towards a Metzias Dover. It's there because there's a tangible presence. That's what makes it be. So he says, no, Chokhmah is not a Metzias Dover adayin, because Chokhmah is still imbued, totally still maintained, suspended, so to speak, by the Oyer Leki from where it comes from. And then, from Chokhmah it comes into Bina, and Bina is a Metzias Dover, is a Yesha Metzias. Like we illustrated yesterday, that in Bina the expression would be Toile Eretz Al Belima. There's a special action, intent, there's Eretz, and it being suspended. Even though it's suspended on Belima, that's already a godly miracle. But essentially, there are several points that we're making in this whole phenomenon. It's at Chokhmah, there's only one reality. The earth, the presence of the earth, and the place where it is where God wants it to be. What it stands for. Okay. And now we're going to go for, okay, the line begins with the word Dover, 8 lines from the bottom. V'chokhmah ubina, v'zivugai hu todir. I'd like we should understand the significance of this. Chokhmah and Bina zivugai hu, they are joining. Zivug, todir is constant. V'tzorech kiyum ha'olamus, for the purpose of kiyum ha'olamus, of maintaining the worlds. It is not enough for Chokhmah to present Bina with the means by which Bina can understand and decipher Metzius. That relationship between Chochmah and Bina is constant. Means that even though Bina already understands the whole structure, it constantly refers back to Chochmah. Yes, I have a structure, but what is the basis for that structure? That's the Chochmah. This is what gives it real reality, real presence. And if not for Chochmah, the whole structure doesn't exist. And that gives it Kiyum Ha'olamus. This is the important principle that must be recognized when one studies the world. Say, oh, the world, look at this. It has a complete structure. If you lose sight of the Chochmah, of the Ayin, where it comes from, then you have nothing. You have no world. You have a lifeless world, a total meaningless world. It's not a world. A world means that there's interaction. That's what it says. There's a guy who taught it. And this is why we started the other day pointing out that Bina, even though Bina focuses on the content, so to speak, on the individual aspects, elements that give it a structure. It is constantly recognizing that this structure is actually representing a inyan of Chochmah. For example, these examples everybody can give themselves. I just want to. You build a table. A table, as we mention all the time, is a human concept. It represents a human spirit. Kovid Abris. And yet it has a structure. If, as you are building it, you were given the schematic, and you're putting it together, if you do not refer back to what the table is supposed to look like and what its function is, it'll be a lopsided creature. Just won't work. What's the difference? This leg is a little longer, so what's so terrible about that? You have more wood. This is why the world is standing, the table stands on the floor, and the floor on the beam and so forth. You must always realize that the whole world is suspended on blima. And if your world becomes the table standing on the floor, then you will not have a world. You're traveling someplace, and you have your route defined for you. And in the middle of the route, there is a blockage. Whatever, the bridge is being repaired. I don't want to go into anything more dramatic. As far as you're concerned, the place you need to come to, you can get through this structure, this path. And if I can't get through this path, I can't get to the place. That's the world, is a structure. In order to go above that, you have to realize, no. These paths that lead to the place is because the place is a real place in the world. Not because these paths lead to it. And you want to go to the place not because there are paths to it, but because it's a real place. So if these paths don't work, you have to find other paths. This is a prerequisite. This is what Chochmah Bina Zivogai Hu Todir. Even after you know that you have this path, you have to know that it is based on the Chochmah. Like we pointed out, phenomenal thought that when a human being walks from point A to point B in a straight line, you walk down Troy Avenue, Schenectady Avenue. You are walking a Schenectady Avenue, realizing constantly, on a fundamental basis, that the Schenectady Avenue is a one path in an overall scheme, in overall reality. An animal knows only one path, the path that it's walking on. A human being does not walk on the path. He walks on the entire globe. And in order to come to his place, he walks on this path. This path is always part of the globe. A thought just occurred to me. I don't know if it should be verified. It may be interesting. It's an interesting thing for a human being to walk on a tightrope or on a plank is a whole accomplishment. It's very, very challenging. A cat can walk on nothing. No problem. Why? Because the cat is focused. He only knows one path at a time. Doesn't know anything else. Human being is walking on this path, but he's actually walking on the entire reality. Hey, you have to balance yourself. Who knows? Maybe there's some truth in this. So maybe we'll become cats and we're able to show off by you can walk on planks. All right. So this is an important principle. Chochmah Bina Zivogayo Todeh. This is the great phenomenon of Bina. You think Bina is a Metzius Dover. It identifies the pieces of the puzzle. No. It identifies the entire truth and breaks it down into the pieces of the puzzle. And this is why it's able to put it together. The Yichud Chochmah Bina, which means from this union of Chochmah and Bina, Shehu Yichud Ayin v'Yesh, which is the union between Ayin and Yesh, because Chochmah, as we said, is still Ayin. Ayin, you said from both aspects, because it is on the Kudel Avad, and Ayin because it is not a Metzius Dover, it is a beetle. And then it goes into Bina, which is Yesh. From this, as a result of this union between Ayin and Yesh, is Hava Kol HaNivroim Me'ayin LeYesh. All Nivroim came to be Me'ayin LeYesh, V'zivogai Hu Todir. What is the emphasis of here? Kol HaNivroim Me'ayin LeYesh. This is the point we just now made. Nivroim and Me'ayin LeYesh. Me'ayin LeYesh means that the principal orientation is that the reality is the Ayin. I mean, it is true for all Nivroim, but where is this reflected? Who becomes aware of it is the human being. Because human being has intellect, and he always seeks out, he always recognizes what is the reality. The reality is the Ayin. And therefore, since the reality is the Ayin, when he walks on the tightrope, he's constantly shaking. Because there's a whole Ayin around him. A whole world. And therefore, from his perspective, because a human being, as I said, with his intellect, he actually perceives the reality. The primary Metzius is the Ayin. And everything is drawn from that. And therefore, it needs to be constantly recreated, redefined. This is the Bina that Yesh. And that is the creation of the world. That's why it's called Me'ayin Leyesh, because the world does not have its own presence. It is constantly coming from Ayin into Yesh. And this is why we have the Chochmah, the Zivug between Chochmah and Bina that provide for the existence of the world. And that's why Zivugayu Todir, and this joining between the Ayin and Yesh is constant, and this is why we have a world. And this is why, because Zivugayu Todir, because it's a constant Zivug, this is why it's possible to misunderstand and misconstrue what the observation and lose sight of the Ayin and only see the Yesh.
Because it's constant, you say?
Because it's constant. Let's put this in perspective. As we mentioned in our description of the tree, of the fruit tree, there are two ways of seeing everything in the world. The stupid, idiotic way and the true godly way. That's the tree. Look for means, for ways to live, to be able to produce fruit. Or is that whole spirit provided for it from a higher source? Because that ayin is non-objectional. It's ayin. Okay, you want to take, take. Therefore, it becomes it's easy to interpret that what is actually taking place in the world. It is the Bina that creates the object. The Bina is so smart, and it sees that there is a way that you can create a table from wood, so it goes and creates a table. Forget about the ayin, the chochmah. What is the real truth? The real truth that the whole inspiration, and the whole initiator of the whole process is the Chochmah, not the Bina. This is where the Bina becomes smart. This is the wisdom in Bina. That it's, yes, I'm not the initiator. What am I doing? What am I building? I'm building a table, not banging together two pieces of wood. An interesting phenomenon in the American production line. The production line in the American line, especially Ford created this production line. You put people in certain stations, and your job is to put in this screw in this place. As soon as you put in the screw, the whole line moves off to the next station. It was enormously efficient. And they roll up off cars every 3 minutes a car, something like that, 7 minutes a car. But the cars are lopsided, full of bugs. It's tradition in America. You buy a car, you have to go for a first checkup after 6 months. You have to constantly check up where are the bugs in the car. Japanese had a different approach. They put a team of people to build a car, not to put in a screw. They build one car at a time, but it's You know, I heard people talking. You know, so did you go for your first checkup? I have nothing to report. I have nothing to report. When you build a car and you don't know what you're doing, and you have no stake in the overall picture, so the screw is straight and not straight, big deal. For us, this is an extremely important thing to understand, because we're constantly bombarded with idiotic view that everything creates itself. The stupidest thing to say. You take away all the spirit from the world. So there's no ayin, there's only yesh. How can yesh survive?
What about why is the fact that it's tadir? Why is that what is enabling one to ignore the ayin? You started off by saying that because it's tadir.
Because it's tadir, right? So you don't notice that if you don't refer to the you don't refer to the car, the screw will not go in. The screw will go in, and it'll hold.
Is tadir synonymous with that the ayin doesn't object to anything? They don't seem.
Yes. You do anything you want. It's the mitzias that counts. The yesh, not the concept.
Because it's no matter what you do, it continues to provide, and
No, it doesn't provide. It's there. You use it. Ayin you use. But if you have ayin, because you use it, you lose all spirit. You have nothing there.
so why is that? I'm sorry. Why is that? What does that have to do with tadir? Tadir, the zivug is happening constantly. Bina is constantly receiving from chokhmah, which is the ayin.
So therefore, it's constantly available. Therefore, I don't have to be concerned about the ayin. I have to be concerned about the yesh only. And eventually, the yesh becomes my only orientation. Like you pointed out, you build a car. What is the inspiration for a car? The human spirit to travel from place to place, to conquer the world. But when you build the expert car, the one that can go at 180 miles per hour and take turns at enormous speed, that car, no, that's not for the human spirit. That's for running in circles. It becomes self-sufficient. It doesn't have to supply any kind of a purpose. You have a difficulty with this? Let me explain to you. You go to a psychologist who is totally untrained, unaware to focus in that there is a neshama behind the human being, behind the whole intellectual process. He talks to you, and he sees you had some kind of a kink over here. Your father kicked you one more time too much, or whatever it is. That becomes your kink. Therefore, we have to attend to that kink. And if you think this and this and this and that, you will have healed yourself from this kink. Does that bring any kind of spirit in you?
I understand all the mishalim. I totally, but I just don't understand how they correlate to that the fact that the zivug is tadir, that's what's enabling it to be
Because if it were not Todir, you would have to refer back to it all the time. Where is this coming from? Then you would not make the mistake and think it's all based on structure.
Actually, you could look at the Todir as the positive of the relationship.
It definitely is. But this is all what provides the misunderstanding as well.
Okay, but it's both. Without the Todir, the Bina would not have the instruction what
No
to do.
question about it. No question about it. And Chochmah is applying it. The point is that the Todir can be misunderstood. Where the Bina says, I don't need the Chochmah, I know it on my own.
Can I do it without Chochmah?
I can do without Chochmah. I can be an idiot and also produce a theory that the whole world will buy into. It's okay. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. As we say in davening, he innovates and rejuvenates with his kindness and goodness every day, Tomid constantly. Which is a statement, a very simple statement for us Chassidim. This is, we are so used to it, but we have to reflect what that means. That the worlds are mischadesh constantly me'ayin liyesh. This is what the world is about. It is representing the ayin in the form of yesh, not representing the yesh. Me'ayin liyesh. The who?
If the Bina is misappropriating the whole thing, it's not a real zivug.
I'll tell you, the truth is, Bina is not the culprit. It's the yeshus. Bina gives you an understanding, but you say I'm gonna. Bina is being usurped. Bina is not usurping anything.
Okay, but that's not a zivug.
There's no zivug, that's right. But you have to go refer back to Chochmah, but ignore that. Ignore that. I don't know how the world is suspended. Who cares? Here, the world is standing.
The emes of the world, regardless of how you interpret it, is that it's mamish garland.
Exactly
Because
right.
it is ayin.
Exactly right. This is what the Rambam says. The first principle of all knowledge is that there is a first being upon which everything is built. Take away that, you don't have nothing. Pardon me, you don't have anything. All right. I thought you would go over the next line, but you're not. So have a good day and good Shabbos. And listen, tonight we're going to have a Sikha. Go ahead.
And our anonymous sponsor is going to make sure we have it for bringing tomorrow. Thanks, Lady Yitzchak.
Call to it. Have a good day.
Yesh me'ayin, or that's just ayin?